a million faces formed together, made for elevation. I'm a soldier, won't surrender. Faith is like a fire that never burns to embers. The voice of the unheard. Love is the answer.
I gotta speak it, believe it, that's how I feel inside.
I can't sit here quiet.
You can take my heart, you can take my breath when you pry it from my cold dead chest.
This is how we rise up. Heavy as a hurricane, louder than a freight train. This is how we rise up. Heart is beating faster, feels like thunder. Magic static, call me a fanatic. It's our world, they can never have it. This is how we rise up. It's our resistance, you can't resist us. Can you hear me? Are you listening? Sleeping in the shadows could be making history. Through the fire, on the water, used to be a slave, but now you are a conqueror.
They can take my heart, they can take my breath when they pry it from my cold dead chest.
This is how we rise up. Heavy as a hurricane, louder than a freight train. This is how we rise up. Heart is beating faster, feels like thunder. Magic static, call me a fanatic. It's our world, they can never have it. This is how we rise up. It's our resistance, you can't resist us. We're rising up, rising up, we're rising up, rising up, we're rising up. This is how we rise up. It's our resistance, you can't resist us. This is how we rise up. Heavy as a hurricane, louder than a freight train. This is how we rise up. Heart is beating faster, feels like thunder. Magic static, call me a fanatic. It's our world, they can never have it. This is how we rise up. It's our resistance, you can't resist us.
And welcome everyone. We're just going to have a quick minute here because it looks like we're the service for the online kind of went a little awry there. It looks like we are on the YouTube, but Facebook will be up in a second. And it's always a good time when you have some technical issues, and it always happens at the worst times. But you know what? They do happen, and we will be up with it in a second. And once we go. So could anyone see the, I know I'm not on the thing yet, and I want to make sure that we're all here together. So I see the like I said, I see they are up on in the YouTube, which is always a good thing. But we also want to be on with all of our other pages. And of course, like I said, it always works right off the bat. And then of course, if you click on, I see if you go to the Volano for State Senate campaign, you could actually jump on through there. But for some reason, they just don't want us to see all of our other stuff. It's quite interesting. This usually never happens, but it is happening now, which is quite odd since very interesting. Okay, but we are here on YouTube, so I'm going to actually go ahead and I'm going to share our video from YouTube. I think that is the best way to do it. So here we go. If you are on the feed, you just saw it jump up on the Volano for the Volano for the Volano, my personal page, and on my regular page, on my personal page. So you should be able to see both of them. Let me know if you don't. If you could jump on to the instant message, I guess that would be the best way to do it. Let's see real quick here. Again, we got a lot to talk about tonight too, which is crazy. Of course, that's why when these things happen, it's always a little tricky. But we will, like I said, we will make the best of it. And we will eventually get up here and running. And here we go. Let's see what we got here. What is going on here today? It's very odd. For some reason, it just does not want to do anything here today. And it is very strange on why it is jumping on and off. So if you can see it, I know it's only on one, it's only on YouTube right now, which is strange. Why it's not coming up on the other issues. Let's see. Don't you love these things? This is all great stuff. See, we are running live on there. Let's see why we're not running here. Let's see. Okay. Well, it looks like I found out why it's not doing it. So we're going to go ahead and do this. There we go. Let's go. There we go. We should be up and running now. Let's see if we are on our Facebook page. Our Volano for State Senate. And there we are. We are off and running to the races. Okay, we're gonna share this to our regular page. So we should be able to share this now to everybody. There we go. All right, there we go. Now we got people jumping on. All righty. We had some technical issues there for a second. I don't know what was going on. But for some reason, Facebook just did not want us to come on for whatever reason. Very odd tonight. Usually that does not happen. So I have no idea what is going on there. I think what I am going to do on this one is I'm going to turn around and I am going to switch on over here so that I myself let's see, my password. I always forget my password. I don't know about you guys, but for some reason, I always seem to forget my passwords, and some of them don't react the way they should. Others do. But I'm going to throw the feed up on my personal page also, because I know a lot of people watch it from there. So there we go. We are off and running. I apologize again for that delay. We are off and running. Here we go. Now, let's do some formalities first, since we finally got us back up and running. I am Joe Volano. I am your host and your guiding light through all the craziness that is going on in our world today. I had a terrific time last night during the debate, where I was able to finally get to sit down with my opponent, who, again, likes to do these little hit and runs. I always like to have good conversations, so I'm glad She actually showed up, and we'll get into all the other stuff that would happen during the debate. We have the whole thing. We'll do a complete wrap-up of it. But, of course, this show always works best when you're involved. So if you want to call in, 203-679-9610, you can be part of the show. Or you can obviously email us, straighttalkjv@gmail.com. And, of course, if you're on YouTube, Twitter, and all those other social medias, you could jump on the live stream. We are up and running. You can either follow it on the Volano for State Senate campaign Facebook page, or you could go over to my personal page. So, please, 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 even if you're from the opposite side, if you're from the left, I want to hear from you. If you are a liberal or a Democrat, I want to hear from you. So make sure you either call in, you email us, or you jump onto the message board and speak your piece. I think it was on an informative night. I think people should have gotten a lot out of it. We're going to put our disclaimer up here, of course, paid for by Volano for State Senate. And, of course, Josh Borkser is our great treasurer. And, of course, as always, I always approve this message because I'm giving it. So why wouldn't I? So, again, if you missed last night, I do have it on all of our pages. It is extremely important for you all to go ahead and watch it. I think it's a good opportunity to see both candidates, interact with each other and be able to, call each other out on the things that we see that they're trying to pull the wool over your eyes on. And again, I said it in my opening statement. They were going to use a lot of different terms to try to paint some kind of rosy picture. And that's exactly what they did. Mike Quinn came right out and said the two words. If you listened to my opening statement, I said they were going to use record surpluses and record tax cuts. Those are the two things they were going to try to use to pull the wool over your eyes. And Mike Quinn, right out of the gate, oh, we had record surpluses. Oh, we had record tax cuts. It's like, really? You also gave us two of the biggest tax hikes in state history, 2 years ago and 4 years ago. And then the only reason why we have a surplus is because of all the influx of federal money that came in at about $3.5 billion. Then you got $1.2 billion in windfall taxes from inflation. So no, you didn't give us record revenue surpluses. No, the federal government did that. And that money is eventually going to go away. And in fact, it'll be gone in 2 years. And if we follow on the projection we're at, we're going to be at a $2 to $3 billion deficit that we're going to have to make up. So hard decisions will have to be made. But again, I knew they were going to go that route because, again, I know liberals better than I know the back of my hand. They're so predictable. I have been studying liberals for over 20 years. People need to remember where I started in politics. Now, believe it or not, I was young and naive. I started politics when I was like 12 or 13. So that's what? 22 years ago. And I started working on the campaigns, handing out literature around my neighborhood. And my state representative at the time was the biggest liberal you're ever going to meet, Mike Lawler. I grew up in East Haven. Mike Lawler lived around the corner from us. Very nice guy, and he still is a nice guy. Listen, his politics are whacked, and he's a lunatic on the far left. But Mike Lawler was always a nice guy to me, and I used to hand out his literature. But I always used to read his literature and always felt like something was off. But I continued to do it because, I was learning the ropes. I was learning how things were done. And I use that stuff even still today. It's why I say I know liberals. I've studied them. I've been around them my entire life. Which is why I'm so keen to what they say and how they say it. And I could tell you when they're giving you a bunch of crap. And I have no problem calling them out on it, as we obviously showed last night. So we had 2 debates last night. You had the House debate, which we're not going to get into tonight because this is going to take probably an hour to begin with, us going through the Senate one. The House debate, listen, it was okay. It was kind of boring to me, the House debate. I mean, I think they both missed prime opportunities to go after each other. I don't know how. I don't know why certain individuals didn't go after each other. I don't get it. Listen, when I hear an opportunity to use their own words against them, you got to take that. You got to take those opportunities. And you're going to find that me and Jan had a couple of those moments. And she's going to say she never said it, but then I'm going to show you a video of her saying it. So we're going to get into that. So let's jump in here, because I don't want to waste 2 times. And again, if you're a liberal out there, or if you're a Jan supporter, please, please, please call in. In fact, let me throw the number up there one more time. 203-679-9610. So if at any time during this show you get triggered, by all means, call in and we can talk it through. And I will bring you off the ledge and I will calm you down and we can have a discussion on it. On whatever issue you're having issues with, we can have the discussion, because that's what we do here. In case you didn't know, that's what we do here at Straight Talk. We have the discussions in a respectful manner, and I'll be respectful to you, as long as you're respectful to me, and that you're gonna treat this audience with respect. We can have these discussions. So again, if you're a Jan supporter, please by all means give us a call. But let's get into this, and let me get my cue card here on the order of things. So the first question right off the bat, first of all, now I know she was prepped pretty good for this. I gotta imagine she was. And just before this started, this debate started, Kathy Abercrombie pulled her outside. And I could guarantee you, Kathy Abercrombie said these 3 things to her. Okay, you're about to go in there. Take a deep breath. Take a deep breath. All right, we need you to do 2 things. We need you to stay calm. So stay calm was 1. We need you to stick to the script that they gave her. And 3, don't let him rattle you. Don't let him get under your skin. I guarantee you those are the 3 things she told her to do. And then take a deep breath and get your ass out there and make us proud. And I'm sure she did. So let's jump in to the first.
Hi, Ms. Huckadal. So this question is
start too early there. Okay, we're gonna start into the first one. I'm gonna have to lower my microphone here because I can hear myself reverbing in my ears. So now I can't hear myself, and it's gonna be a little weird for me. But it's okay, because I want to make sure I hear this along with you guys. So here's the first question. This was on overdose deaths, okay? This was the first question right out the bat. So she was a little nervous. You could tell. Listen, it's her first time, and I can understand going against yours truly. I'd be a little nervous too. So, but here we go.
to drug-related death. Last year, the CDC reported over 100,000 of drugs overdose death last year. Yeah.
Can you guys hear
This
it?
is the highest number. Hi, Ms. Huckadal. So this question is related to drug-related death. Last year, the CDC reported over 100,000 of drugs overdose death last year. Yeah, the highest number ever reported.
If it's not one thing, it's another, right, ladies and gentlemen?
So this question is related to
I can hear it.
drug-related death. Last year, the CDC reported over 100,000 of drugs overdose death last year. Yeah, this is the highest number ever reported. What steps do you think the legislature should take as a response?
Now, again, remember, this question was about overdose and what you're going to do to prevent it. And this is how she started.
Yeah, thank you for that question. COVID was horrible. and it caused trauma in our children and actually in adults as well. Having worked in a school system, I can tell you it was a very difficult year. Trying to go back safely into schools, working what's best for the students, but also for the adults that work there. The problem is also that we have lost teachers.
Now what this, again, now I know they told her to stick to the script, but I mean, come on, you got to at least answer the question. I mean, you sit there and said this was a great question, but then you didn't come anywhere near answering the question. She went straight into, well, you know, COVID is this, COVID is that, and it's tough out there. And she's trying to put on the sad tone, as you know, it's all okay. It's going to be all okay. But, you know, it was tough out there and we did our best. Not ever even coming close to answering about overdose deaths. And then we gave her a second shot at it. We gave her a second shot, and this is how she responded to that.
Repeat the question. Yeah, I think there was a misunderstanding on the question.
Yeah.
It was related to overdose deaths, not
It was nice that they called her out.
So, the CDC had reported over 100,000 drug overdose deaths last year, and this is the highest number ever reported. And what steps do you think the legislature should take to address that?
I apologize.
Should we give another minute?
She has a minute left, so I'm going to stop.
Yes, sure, absolutely. 1 minute.
Won't give you two, though.
I do still think it comes down to early interventions and finding folks the mental health that they need. I do think the legislature should seriously look at funding these community organizations that can reach out to people, but there also has to be awareness programs. I do think awareness is the first sign of somebody is having an issue. So once we know that, we can create these plans to hopefully intervene before these suicides occur.
So notice what she said. So basically, she had no answer for it. She doesn't have a solution for it. She doesn't even know what the problem really is. And that's the problem. She has no idea what the actual problem is, nor does she care. Because it's not about anything else other than schools and making more money for schools. You notice that every answer she gives throughout the night is all about spending more money. When she says investing, it's spending more money. That is what a pure tax and spend liberal is all about. And here comes my response. This is actually tackling the problem.
Okay, so there's two things to this issue. One, you have the mental health side of it, and you have the economy side, because the economy, a lower economy always leads to higher drug usage, because people lose their job, they get desperate. It's an escape. That's a fact. And the other side is we are handcuffing our police department from actually doing their job. We have fentanyl coming into this country by the hundreds of thousands, and we're not allowing our police department, because of the police accountability bill, which again the Democrats championed, that the police can't search a car when it's pulled over and they have reasonable suspicion to sit there and search it. They can't do that anymore. They're handcuffed. That is one way we could actually stop a lot of these overdoses.
So that's the point, is that this police accountability bill that they've been championing, that obviously isn't working, is one of the reasons why fentanyl is reaching these people. That's why a lot of these illicit drugs are reaching these people, and they're overdosing on them. And it's a shame, because they shouldn't be. But we're not allowing our police department to be able to do their job successfully. We used to hear every week about the Meriden Police Department. They used to post it on their page, showing all the guns and all the drugs they got off our streets. And they did it by searching vehicles when they have reasonable suspicion that there are drugs and guns there. But they're not allowed to do that anymore. So now you're seeing that you're not getting those posts. And where are those drugs that used to be on that post? They're getting in the hands of our kids. They're getting in the hands of people that have drug addiction problems. And they're overdosing, and they're dying at record rates. And there's something we can't do about it. But those on the left, no. No, we can't let the police do their job. They say they want people to be safe, but all their actions are to the contrary. So the next one we're going to talk about are rescue funds. That's always a fun one for me, because everyone knows how I feel about the rescue fund. I think Mike Gagney had a ball on this tonight, last night. I think Mike Gagney, as he's asking some of these questions, we're like, Joe's going to hit the wall on this. I can't wait to hear what Joe has to say. And I hope that's what everybody did. I hope everybody wanted to hear what we had to say. And again, it wasn't about me. People were asking me, well, why didn't you talk more about yourself? Why didn't you do more about yourself in your opening statement? Because like I've always said, this is not about me. This is about us. This is our movement. This is our campaign that we're all going to go up there together. I am just the front man for it. But it's all of us that are going to put solutions on the table, and we're going to take those up to Hartford together. That's something I think is different than other candidates are doing. I don't look at this as my campaign. I look at it as our campaign, and some people get irritated when I say that. But it's the truth. But let's get into the next cut here.
This question regards American Rescue Plan Act funding. In 2021, the state of Connecticut, towns and cities received $2.6 billion in ARPA funds. The city of Meriden alone received more than $36.3 million in funding, and roughly 3/4 of those funds have so far been committed, not including funds allocated to the city school system, of course. So how would you prioritize the use of remaining funds throughout the communities in the 13th Senate District?
So first, I would try to make sure we use those funds for the seniors. They need a new senior center. We need a new health center. And again, Republicans have been talking about this for 2 years now. I know we did a story on the Record Journal a couple weeks ago, and the first question I asked was, okay, well, why are we bringing this up now? Republicans have been talking about this for years. The health department over on Miller Street is a disaster. It cannot be repaired. The senior center looks more like a prison than it looks like a senior center. We have an opportunity here with the rescue funds to build a quality senior center / health center, and hopefully on the green where they wanted to put the affordable housing units that apparently now even Democrats are against. So I think it's a prime location, either that or Cook Street, and we're at the old medical facility. We should be using these funds appropriately to help, again, like it was originally set for one-time purposes. Building a health senior center is that one-time purpose that we can really make some quality use out of those funds. Giving them to nonprofits who, again, you're giving, what, $239,000 to Gallery 53 for a roof that's worth more, obviously, than the building. It just didn't make any sense. And now you have a little, $35,000 per student for nursing. I was like, who's picking these winners and losers? That's not how government works. We don't sit there and get to pick and choose winners and losers based on who those who are making decisions favor more. That's just not the way our system should work. We should be using those funds appropriately in ways that will benefit everybody in the city, everyone in the district for whatever town they're in. We shouldn't be picking and choosing winners and losers.
And that's important to realize is that, again, and that's why we talk about a lot of the funds that are going out and throughout the time that they have. And we keep saying that. Listen, you have to use the money wisely. And it's really meant for infrastructure. It's meant to get up on infrastructure. One time use so that you're not crippling your budget years later when you're trying to fund these things that you're doing now that are supposed to be temporary. So I think using those funds for a senior center / health center is the best way for us to utilize those funds. And everybody should be on board with that. Of course, my opponent obviously wasn't listening to me because she goes, oh, I agree with you. We need to use it on senior housing. Here, I'll let you listen to it for yourself because it's quite comical.
Some of the funds should be used
she doesn't even know what I was saying.
Housing. As I'm on the doors, I am hearing the high cost of housing going up for our seniors. So I think that that is a tremendous issue. But I also think the other end of the spectrum is also an issue, and that is childcare. I think childcare is very expensive. I know when I had my children, I was pretty much working just for the benefits.
Now again, real quick, this was a question on how you would use rescue funds. You can't use rescue funds for childcare. Now, again, she didn't answer any question. She went back to her normal talking point, which is school and children, which I guess she's a teacher, but she never answers hardly any of these questions. And I don't know how the moderators just let her kept doing it. Listen, I don't care. You want me to answer all the questions and you could just show up as, a talking box for education. Of course, something that makes you richer. I mean, so be it. But I mean, she doesn't even come close to answering this question.
All the money went to the child care. And added to that, since COVID, it's been very difficult for people to find high quality child care.
How you have a hard time finding childcare if you're not working? During COVID, people just weren't working, so they didn't need childcare. So I don't know what the hell she's talking about.
And the number of providers has been reduced. So there are families that are really struggling with childcare. And I think we should really look at the pros and cons of community childcare systems. First
Now
of
she
all,
wants a private.
it would
She wants to
ensure
make
that
it
the
public.
providers are given high quality care, but it also that the providers are having a living wage and benefits for themselves and for their families. So I do agree that we have to look at ways that benefits the communities as a whole and everybody in the community.
Thank you.
So now she wants to socialize childcare. In case you missed that, she wants to socialize childcare. She wants to take it out of the private sector's hands, and she wants to move it under government control. That's basically what she just said there. Again, good old tax and spend liberal, good old socialist. This is why she's taking awards of excellence from the Communist Party of Connecticut, because she's won herself. Let's continue on. The next one we're going to talk about is the one I personally enjoyed the most, was juvenile crime.
Yes, Mr. Bolano. Earlier this year, state lawmakers passed legislation intended to enable local law enforcement and courts to more effectively respond to youth charged with multiple or repeat motor vehicle theft. Do you think these measures adequately address issues of juvenile crime and motor vehicle theft? If not, what further action do you propose?
2 days after that bill passed, the city of Merritt alone picked up 6 juveniles with 4 stolen cars. And they were released about 2 to 3 hours later back to their parents. In fact, one of their warrants, one of these juveniles had a warrant out for him, and the warrant stipulated that he be returned to his parents. We've had many a times in this city that juveniles have been picked up, dropped off back to their parents 3 hours later, and then they're back in the system 6 hours after that. Does that sound like it's working? Does anyone think that that's working? But this is what our state legislators up in Hartford believe is, again, they patted themselves on the back that October 1st this law was going to pass, and everybody was joyful about it. But again, 2 days later, we had 6 juveniles doing it. We have juveniles stealing cars and taking police on wild police chases. But that's not considered a serious offense when they're running from police. So again, instead of being put through the system, they're being released back to their parents. Which then gets me to thinking, the hell are these parents doing? And that's a whole different conversation that we could get into, because this is the culture we've allowed. They know it's open season on the public because of the laws passed by this state legislator. They know they're not going to be held responsible. And what you're starting to find out is that there's adults that are leading these packs of kids and letting the kids go ahead. They're planning it out and letting the kids sit there and do the actual crimes because they know nothing's going to happen. If an adult does it, it's a felony. You're going to jail for 5 to 10 years. If a child does it, 2 hours, you're back to your parents. Have a nice day. We'll see you in a couple days. And as far as the police accountability bill, we all talk about these increases to police departments. Over 50% of all increases to police departments are being used to get them up to code on the police accountability bill. So they're not seeing it. So half it's going to that, and the other half's going to contractual wage increases, which again, they deserve for what they're dealing with out there today.
Thank you.
Yeah, there's really no good answer for juvenile justice yet.
No good answer for juvenile justice yet. They just passed the bill, Democrats. So the first statement right off the bat, I was like, what is she talking about? What is it? We mean no good answer for it yet. There's laws in place. Follow the law. But it got much better.
Because it's hard. we all want to be safe, right, in our homes, in our cars. My grandfather was a police officer, a very good police officer, but I think he would have wanted some accountabilities because everybody should be accountable for doing a good job.
Now, listen to what she just said there. She said everyone should be held accountable for doing a good job. She then later on goes to try to say, well, I said we need to hold people accountable. For what? Doing a good job? Yeah, we should hold our police for doing a good job. She never talked about holding juveniles responsible for what they're doing. She just basically called them victims of society, and that, I don't want to ruin their lives because they decided to make bad choices over and over and over again. We didn't ruin their lives. Their parents might have ruined their lives by not keeping them in check. But again, that's a bigger discussion for down the road.
But when we're dealing with children, there is a fine line between the accountability and possibly ruining their lives for the rest of their lives. And I really don't want to see anybody's lives ruined. But again, we need to keep our residents safe. So I think the solution would be, I work with probation officers and educators. I think it's time that we all sit down and look at what is the solution? How do we learn from some of our past mistakes? How do we gain new programs so that, again, everybody is safe, but we have people that are working in these positions helping us with the solutions.
Thank you.
So basically, she's saying, okay, well, I don't have any answers. I don't really care about this subject. We have people working on it, but these kids are victims. Screw the actual victims of their crimes. Because again, if they steal your car and they trash your car, don't worry about it. Who cares? They're kids. They're kids. They're doing what kids do. We really want to ruin their lives forever? No. It's society's fault. Throw them back on the street so we can have them right back in the streets again. It's craziness. It's craziness the way these people think. But there are many of them out there that believe in that. And hopefully it's not a majority of the Democrats that are going to come vote for us.
I just don't see how this is a hard issue to tackle. I don't know why it's hard. The kids are committing crimes. The public is at risk. Our job as government officials is to protect the people of this state. And we should take that very seriously. And to sit there and say that's hard, it's not hard. If these kids are repeat criminals, repeat offenders, what about the people, the victims that they're dealing with? And you're talking about them losing, being hurt long term. They're making these choices. Listen, we're allowed to make choices in life. We are also responsible for those choices we make. And I think that's, as kids, we should be instilling that in our children.
Thank you. Ms. Hagedell?
I believe I did say that. I believe I did say that there should be consequences, but we should be looking for.
You never said
with
that.
The professionals that work with these folks and can ask them to help us with solutions, things that have worked in the past.
But didn't they help us with the accountability bill that they just passed? Listen, that's a Democrat bill. How about you let us take a shot at it? Us pro-police, pro-safety, pro-security people take a shot at this. And we'll see how fast it changes. She didn't want to hold anyone accountable. She didn't want anyone to have consequences. She doesn't care. It's about kids. Kids are victims. Send them back to school. We'll teach them how to be a good liberal. That's basically her train of thought.
Ms. Hagedell, the Chamber submits this question. Studies show that performing functions through private nonprofit organizations is twice as efficient as government doing it directly. Do you support continued and expanded outsourcing to these organizations, even though it would mean a reduction in state workforce? Do you support the idea that government's roles should be monitoring services and not actually delivering services? And can government effectively be both the provider and the overseer?
There's a lot to that question. But I believe the gist is the private nonprofit. I work with nurses and healthcare professionals in hospitals. And I can tell you, since hospitals have been privatized, the cost has gone skyrocketing. I'm not sure how that saves costs for the people that actually use those services. I look at Hartford Healthcare, which has over $100 million in operating budget, and they use some of their nonprofits to put an ad during halftime in the Super Bowl. That probably cost over $7 million. They also spend millions of dollars to put their names on the side of sports arenas. This is what the nonprofit is doing when we privatize hospitals. How about instead if we use that money and we actually put it towards maybe some of our senior health care costs, our children's costs, or even actually the, paying the wages for our nurses so that we can retain them, because that's also a problem in our state. We don't have enough nurses working in our hospitals, and so it's becoming dangerous. The patient to nurse ratio, these nurses are they're getting burnt out. And by the way, they do a 12-hour shift, and then they're told by the hospital, I don't have anybody to come in, so I need you to stay for 4 more hours. That is not safe for the patients. That is not safe for the nurses. We have to do something about safely staffing our hospitals.
So this was enjoyable on multiple levels. So in case you did not see it, this was absolutely priceless as she was giving it to me. And I was basically like, are you friggin' kidding me right now? Is she really saying this? One, she wants to turn around and she wants to socialize now. Not only does she want to socialize childcare, but now she wants to socialize medicine overall, because she wants to take the money from a private company and give it and start using it for other things. So basically she's saying, no, you can't use that money just because it's your $100 million. No. We want that so we could do what we want with it. So now we're telling private businesses how to spend their money. It's none of her business how they spend their money. But then she gives me the gift of nurses. Oh my God. I was like, I can't believe this. It's like Christmas in friggin' October. I was like, are you really telling me that you're going to cry about nurses, not having enough nurses? But I'll let you hear for yourself my response to it, because I tell you what, it was probably my most enjoyable part of the night.
Thank you.
Well, that would be because they're being fired for not being vaccinated if they don't want to. Something that you were all for. So I don't know how you can sit here and say, you feel for the nurses that are working double shifts, sometimes 2.5 shifts, when you were all for letting them be fired for not being vaccinated, because that was the choice they made. So I don't see how you could sit there and say that with a straight face. It just doesn't make any sense to me. Now, as far as nonprofits, she also wants to tax the nonprofits. YMCA. And again, we got rid of this with the tax assessor of the city of Meriden, where people were up in a fit when she stripped the tax exempt status away from everyone. Luckily, we were able to get that back. But now we want to send her to Hartford so she could go and tax them again? So YMCA, Boys and Girls Club, everyone with large endowments that get them from people who are being generous when they pass away or from when they get successful, she wants to tax them. That's going to actually lower the amount of care they give to our inner cities. It's just ridiculous.
Thank you.
Can I respond to that?
That was the response.
I have never said that I wanted to tax the United Way, the Boys and Girls Club, the YMCA. I have always said that these are the corporations that have $100 million operating budgets, and I think that they misuse the money that's coming in from the state and the federal government, and using it for things like I said, ads during halftime at the Super Bowl.
She was
and
pissed.
for putting their name on the building when it could be used for other things.
This was the first time she got pissed,
How
but
about
unfortunately,
instead, we have those large nonprofits with huge endowments pay their fair share of taxes instead.
did anyone, let me replay that again. So we all heard it
How about
again.
instead, we have those large nonprofits with huge endowments pay their fair share of taxes instead.
Did anyone hear corporations in there? Did anyone hear private corporations in that statement? Because she just said that she never made that comment. But she did make the comment when she was getting an award from the Communist Party of Connecticut. That's exactly what she said. In fact, I want to make sure for all you pro-Jan people out there, This is what she said.
How about instead, we have those large nonprofits with huge endowments pay their fair share of taxes instead?
It is crazy. They believe their own lies. They actually do. She believes she never said that. But it's there on video. It is crazy. But let's continue on.
And Hockadell, go ahead.
Yeah, yes, Hokado. What policies, if you could mention any specific policies that you will support to prevent school shootings and increase school security overall?
Yeah, thank you for that. The Newtown teachers were are part of AFT Connecticut. So I do, and after that shooting, there was the gun laws that were put into Connecticut, and I fully support that. I do believe, as we do school construction, that there should be safer ways, just like there are at the new Sandy Hook schools. I'm sorry, what was the second part of that question?
Is if you have any specific policies that you want to support for increase the school security overall.
Okay. I do also think we have resource officers that are sometimes shared by multiple schools, that each school should have their own resource officer within those schools. And like I said, as we do the reconstructions for some of our schools or build new schools, we should always take into consideration the safety policies that are on after the Sandy Hook shooting. I think that's it.
Okay, Mr. Bolano.
Yeah, attacking mental health issues is obviously the best way to stop a school shooter. I know they all, after tragedies happen, they all go after the guns. The guns is not what caused the issue, it's the person behind it. So, and I know some people don't believe that. In fact, we have them here. But it all comes down to mental health. If you look at every school shooter that has happened over the last 10 years, they've all had mental health issues that should have been addressed. Most of them were high school students that should have been addressed. Again, you talked about it during the last debate about having mental health clinics in schools. I'm all for it as long as the parents are involved in it. That is the key part, because a lot of these, and I think Killingly was the other one, they want to do a mental health, but again, the parents aren't made aware of it. So how are we going to know if a student has an issue if the own parent doesn't know they have an issue? It comes down to parents being parents and helping with the mental health issues of their children. To sit there and take the parents out of the equation has to be the craziest thing I've ever heard, but liberals seem to love that.
Thank you. Our next question is a reader-submitted question.
I think she had a follow-up.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I want to do a follow-up.
Okay.
Because I want to see if you have any specific measure for the schools to implement in the school.
Sure. So as I said, the mental health clinics in the schools, I am all for bringing the mental health institutions into the schools to help with the problem. Because again, with COVID, again, my opponent, she didn't want anyone coming back to school. And that would have increased it even worse, the problem. But now they're back in school. We have the ARPA funds. The Board of Education in Maryland got $24 million. They should be using some of that for the mental health of the children. Again, my only issue is if you're going to do mental health of the children, the parents need to be made aware of it, and the parents need to be involved in it. You can't have it one-sided.
Thank you.
What do you think about metal detectors or increase the number of guards that are in the school?
No, so we have school resource officers. They should be in every single school. Metal detectors I don't think are really needed. We really don't have that big of a problem here in the state of Connecticut. Again, when it comes down to it, it's mental health issues that are the real culprit. See, they like to go after guns because that's just a symptom of it. That's just the weapon they use of choice. They can use anything as a weapon. It's the mindset that creates this, that makes them go do it, is what we need to get to. We need to get to the root cause. They like to deal with symptoms. I like to get to root causes of things.
Thanks. Ms. Hockadell, you have 1 minute to respond to that, if you want to take it.
First of all, as an educator, I can tell you in the classroom, parents were our best advocates. And a teacher that doesn't work with the parents is missing something, because it is the whole picture of the whole child, and that's the only way that students do learn. So I don't understand how the implication that the educators are not working with parents, because they're a key element to any student's success.
So there she goes again. Never even came close to answering the question. This had nothing to do with whether or not teachers are talking with parents in the school systems. That's not even what I said. We were talking about mental health. And when these kids go to a psychologist or a social worker, they do not, even in the same area, do not have to notify the parents. That is a problem. If we're going to talk about how we're going to relate to mental health, and we're going to help these kids, if these kids are seeing professionals in the school and the parents don't know about it, how are the parents going to help solve the problem? They're not going to even know about the problem. And obviously we have parents that are letting kids steal cars, so don't take it out of the realm of possibility that they don't know what's going on with their child for anything. But maybe if the school contacted them, if they realize that this child does have a problem, don't you think the parents should be made aware? She goes off on this, well, any teachers that's not talking to the parents. No one's even talking about that. No one's even talking about that. But again, she has no idea what she's talking about. She has no plans for it. She has no ideas for it. So she's just going back to her normal friggin' talking points of, oh, these kids, the teachers are great. The poor kids, this and that. Never, ever, ever answering the question. It's amazing to me that this is who they picked to come up and try to represent you in the state Senate. Let's move on.
Thank you. Okay. The next question then is
Oh, I love this one.
from Mike Gagney to Joe Villano, and this is a reader-submitted question.
Mr. Villano, this reader wants.
I just want to state for the record, if this is one of the best questions they got from the Record Journal, from the audience, I am very, very disappointed in the public. Now, I know the Record Journal is very left-wing, and everyone knows that this question obviously was like handpicked to come after me because they thought that I would stumble on it, or they thought they would catch me off guard. People, I'm a trained freaking professional here. They ain't messing with no freaking amateur. I am a trained professional in detecting bullshit and calling out bullshit. And if this is the best question they got from their audience and from their readers, I am very disappointed, but not surprised at all. But wait till you hear this question if you haven't heard it before.
To know regarding the Capitol riot, the January 6th committee. Do you denounce the actions, and these are, I'm quoting up on reader.
Poor Mike.
Denounce the actions from Donald Trump prior to the January 6th Capitol riot and his efforts to undermine the results of the 2020 election, and why?
Listen, this is one of those questions that I think are a little ridiculous because, one, Donald Trump did not incite anything. And if you're going to say Donald Trump incited January 6th, you also have to say Maxine Waters, Nancy Pelosi, who all went out and said, get in their faces, getting these people's faces in the restaurants. It's a ridiculous question, but let's play along with this as we go, because obviously Donald Trump is still on the ticket, but not on the ticket, because people just hate Donald Trump for what he says and what he believes. And you could take that. Listen, if I could take his phone away from him and his Twitter, I'd do so myself. But no one can debate the results of his policies, from Middle East peace to energy independence to a booming economy. You cannot dispute any of that. And that all is because of his policies over 4 years of dealing with 2 impeachments and the Democrats and liberals coming after him every which way to Sunday. So people can hate Donald Trump. Donald Trump is not on this ticket. He's not. And I know people just can't, I know liberals just can't get that off of he lives rent-free in their heads. But he's not on this ticket. We're here to talk about what we're going to do for this state. What my opponent wants to do for this state is just another tax and spend liberal. That's all she is. That's all she is. She's proven that. She said it on video. She wants to tax nonprofits. She may not think she's taxing the YMCA, the Boys and Girls Club, Women and Children's, Meriden Arc. She may not think that. She may really believe that, but that's what she's really doing. You know, when she wants to sit there and not let teachers get back into the classrooms, and she fought a tooth and nail going against all the science, that's what we should be talking about. That's what the readers really need to be talking about and concerned about. Putting heat in their house, putting food on the table. That's what we need to be talking about, not Donald Trump.
Thank you.
Not to pat on myself on the back, but I thought that was perfect.
Thank you. I do think that all of the social media that was put out by Donald Trump saying that the election was stolen did fuel the riot on January 6th. I think it was a grave danger. I think there was a attempt to take over democracy within America, and I applaud Congress for doing their job and investigating fully and looking at all the other issues that might have happened during his presidency.
It is funny. She kept looking. She had all these answers written down, which was actually quite weird.
Are you better off today than you were 4 years ago?
That is true.
Yes, Donald Trump's gone. Yes.
Could I just suggest?
Mr. Bolano, recently Governor Ned Lamont announced that in collaboration with CT Office of Early Childhood and the United Way of Connecticut, that child care workers will be receiving a pay bonus as a way to show gratitude for their work. How else do you think the government could support child care workers at this time and make child care more affordable for Connecticut families?
Why not teachers? Why not police officers? Why not grocery workers? Why not nurses? All these people that worked through the pandemic. Why child care providers? See, this is the problem we have. They pander to their supposed voters or their base, and they need to buy votes. That's all it is. That's just another way of buying votes. Look what I did for you. Come vote for me now. But again, why are we picking and choosing winners or losers? Why are we picking, again, just the child care? Grocery store workers. They were through the pandemic the entire time. Without them, nobody has food on their table. Police officers worked out there every single day, 24/7, 365 days a year during the pandemic. Did they get anything? Nope. It's ridiculous. But this is what happens in election years. It's election year posturing, and Democrats seem to have the power, so they get to pick and choose who they want to give money to. It's just a farce. It's all just a joke. And again, it's every one of your taxpayers' dollars. Every $1,000 they give out comes out of your pockets. Just remember that come election day.
Just to be clear, you don't support that they are helping United Way of Connecticut.
I don't care who they're helping. We don't pick and choose winners and losers in government. We choose that. We help everybody.
In case you missed, I said, I don't care who they're helping.
I do
It doesn't
support
matter.
helping those that help our children. These folks are some of our lowest paid workers. Most of them don't have health care benefits. And like our seniors, they're having a hard time making ends meet. We want to stimulate the economy. We want to provide the best child care. So I do approve giving them the bonuses that we're giving out. I do know that the state is also looking for ways to give some of those other folks, like the people that worked in the Stop and Shops, the essential workers that had to go to work every day. I do know that that's being looked into. I think this was just one step in that process, and I approved it.
So just think about that. So what she just said, again, she wants to give out more of your money. She wants to give out more of your money. They don't want to stop there. For people for doing their job, she wants to give them more money. This is, again, every time she opens her mouth, she spends more money. Is that what the people of this district want? Do you want her going up there and giving out tens of millions of dollars? I don't. I don't want my money going that. What about police officers? What about, the electrical workers? What about the telecommunication workers? Everybody had to work through the pandemic. Why are we picking and choosing which ones we want to give bonuses to out of taxpayer money? I can see if the companies wanted to give them money, but for the government to give out money for no reason? Come on, people. I mean, something's got to give. Where are you going to find all this money, first of all? But this is what tax and spend liberals do. They pander. We're going to give you this. We're going to give you that. So please come vote for us, because if you don't vote for us, you're not going to get it. And if $1,000 is what's going to make or break whether or not these people survive, come on, people. People got all excited about $1,400. Inflation threw that away. Inflation took that in about 2 days. She thinks $1,000 is going to automatically bring everybody's lives to be that much better. Maybe for a month, but you're going to give them every month when they have to pay their rent, when they have to get food, when they have to put gas in their car? It's absolutely ridiculous, and this is exactly what these lunatics do. They just want to take your money and redistribute it to all their pals. That's all this was.
This next question is from Ms. Hockadell. Do you support efforts to promote diversity and inclusion in the classroom through initiatives like the state-mandated elective course, Black and Latino Studies?
Absolutely. I think as long as I've been teaching, diversity, equity, and inclusion is extremely important into a child's learning. They need to learn tolerance. They need to learn that diversity helps us as we grow, and inclusion. I also believe I was a proponent of the new course studies for the Black and Latino curriculum. I've been working with the Yale Center on how to improve that, because as any new bill, there's always ways to improve things. I know that some schools really tried their best to implement the Black and Latino studies and had difficulties. We need to be able to support, because it goes back to one of the other questions. Our educators should look like the communities that they live in. So that means for our inner city schools, which is where I taught, there should be a majority of teachers that look like those students, that have the same life experiences, that are going through the same things so that they can relate. Because unless you get to a student and you relate, and unless you have that trust, there's going to be no learning. So yes, I do approve diversity, equity, and inclusion, and the continuation of the Black and Latino study.
So just a quick question. And this is something they wouldn't let me ask last night, because I actually had a legitimate question for her. And my question was going to be this. Okay, our school system, our demographics in our city looks a certain way now. Now, the average lifespan for a teacher in a school district is anywhere from 15 to 30 years. Let's just say right now we have a perfect world where it looks like everybody, it's evenly put out. What happens when those demographics change in 5 to 10 years? Do you just fire all the teachers? Because you can't do that, right? Because you're a union, and the union is supposed to protect them. So for every teacher that just heard what she just said, she's basically telling you your job is not safe. If you are a white teacher in a Black and Hispanic school, you are going to get fired and be replaced. If you are Hispanic or a Black teacher in another school, in a white dominated school district, you're going to be fired for a white teacher. Now, I don't know about anybody else. That sounds awfully freaking racist to me. That sounds awfully discriminatory to me. But they wouldn't let me make that point last night. We are always changing, especially in the cities, where a lot of transient people move in and out of the cities on a yearly basis, sometimes a month-by-month basis. What is that answer? I mean, this is the president of the teachers union basically telling you that we're going to do what Minneapolis is doing. We're going to lay off teachers based on their color now, not by their seniority. This should piss off every single teacher out there. Every teacher. And how there is not an uproar about this is beyond me. It's the most discriminatory practice I could ever think of. It's the most racist practice I could ever think of. But she just advocated for it. If you're the wrong color in the wrong school, you're gone. Does that sound fair? Does that sound equitable? Is that inclusion? No, it's not. It's just wrong. Let's get back to it.
So I think everybody approves of those studies. What I don't approve is K through 5 trying to be taught sex education. I don't believe in that. I think that's horrible. So yeah, so again, to that first part, absolutely, I believe in those studies, and they should be taught, because the more the child's mind is expanded, the better, well-rounded person they're going to be. But again, that's not all they want. That's just one part of what they want, and that's something they won't tell you. They really want to teach your kids all about sex education, K through 5. That's happening in some of our school systems in the state. So, and that is a fact, and that is happening. So again, they're going to try to peddle one thing. So they'll use inclusion to get into the schools, and then they push their liberal agenda even farther. It's the same thing with the, boys playing in girls' high school sports. It's just ridiculous. It's an unfair advantage, and it sent girls back decades with all the hard work to get to that line. So we have all sorts of different ways to tackle inclusion issues, and then there should always be the best person for the job.
Thank you. Claudia has a question for Jan Huckabell.
Yes, Ms. Huckabell. This is related to affordable housing. What will you do to make housing more affordable in Connecticut, particularly to the underserved communities?
Question. And I have been talking a lot with Representative Quentin Williams in Middletown. He passed a law that our communities, if there is a population greater than 25,000, they have to put into effect a fair rent commission. And I had the opportunity to attend one of these meetings with the mayor in Middletown. And what this commission does is it puts together a body, and it looks at fair rent. So if you are renting and your rent has gone up $500 in the last year because you're seeing the price of housing go up, they can take it to this commission. It's almost like a court case. They can actually look at what the income is, have they put in the proper things to take care of mold and mildew, and there is a verdict whether they can increase the rent. The one thing I was very surprised to find out is most of our large housing with our lower renters is corporations or people that live out of state. So the money that's coming in for this rent is not even actually staying in Connecticut. It's going out of state. So they don't even live here. The money is not going back into our communities, into our economy. It's going out of state. So I think we need to see more on this Fair Rent Commission. We need to keep expanding it and looking for ways that these people can afford to live.
So now she wants to dictate who can or cannot buy property in the city of Meriden and Middletown and Cheshire and Middlefield. So now you don't even have the option under her. Again, this is what communism is, by the way, in case you didn't know. This is what fascism is. You're not even allowed to buy a property. If you own a business and your business wants to invest in real estate, you can't even buy property now under her. She's going to make sure that, no, you can't buy. So a lot of these places are just going to be left to disintegrate, basically, because most of these buildings that are just run down are bought by partnerships and groups and corporations to build up and to obviously rent out. I mean, look at 24 Colony Street. That's a corporation. Look at the Commons. Those are corporations. They're not owned by individuals. That money is not staying here. But that's okay. That's okay. So again, it's just election year posturing. And if she gets her way, if you own a corporation, you're not buying property anymore. Good luck. We're just going to let it rot and run to the ground, just like Cook Street. That's her choice.
The question for me.
What would you do to make housing more affordable in Connecticut, and particularly for underserved communities?
Oh my God, vote Democrats out. That's the easiest way. Let's talk about Meriden. Meriden, 16.8% is affordable housing. They took this whole idea of affordable housing downtown and thought that this was going to revitalize everything, end all be all. We're going to get all these people and businesses downtown. Looked at downtown 5 years later. It's a ghost town. In fact, you're losing more businesses than anything. And this is what happens. You have people with no disposable income. You cannot revitalize an area with no disposable income. That's why businesses don't come here. That is, they talked about it during the last debate about all the economic growth in Berlin and all the great things they're doing in Berlin. Yeah, Berlin's run by Republicans, by the way. And you look at what we're doing here in Meriden and with the city council now, again, show me where there's growth here. There's no growth because of their policies. It's not because people don't want to come here. If they could afford to come here, they would come here. Our reassessments just went up. Look at revaluations. Multifamily houses went up. Some went up 50 to 100%. I'm on the Board of Assessment Appeals. I know. I saw it firsthand. It's a disastrous what Democrats have done to this country, state, and city.
Thank you. The next question is from Mike for Mr. Villano.
Mr. Villano, this is a question that was actually asked in the 83rd district race, and I'm sure I know your answer already. To what extent do you support the state police accountability law that was passed in 2020?
Well, okay, you already know I'm against it. Again, there are some things that I do like for it, but again, if you look at just the implementation of it, again, we talked about, Jack said the police, they passed 4.6% increase in the police budget. Yeah, more than half of that went to actually getting implemented into the police accountability bill. And again, when there's a police shooting in this state, we don't need an IG to sit there and look at it. That's what our state lawyer does. The state's attorney office does every single shooting that happens in this state. It's just more bureaucracy. It's just another way to get the liberals to get their hands on our police officers. This is just, again, this is what the police accountability bill is what happens when you legislate based on emotion and not facts. I don't sit there and do anything based on emotion because emotion is how mistakes are made. They took the George Floyd incident, which again was horrible, and turned it into this national attack against police. And it's just amazing to me that when, again, we had a tragic accident happen last week where we lost 2 Bristol police officers. And now I see every Democrat praising police officers when just 2 years ago, they were basically calling them racist. They were basically saying they were abusing. We had our own city council. We had our own city council in Meriden say that we have a racism problem in our police department and that we have a use of force abuse problem in the state, our city. That's what liberals said. And they're going to now sit there and try to tell me that we praise our police. You can't be hypocrites. I mean, at least pick a side. Pick one and stick to it. At least I'll respect you more.
Thank you.
I've said it before. I think everybody in this room wants to be safe. I have a state trooper that lives 5 doors down from me in my condo, and I'll admit it makes me feel safe. My grandfather, again, was a police officer, a very good one. I'm proud of the work that he did, but I don't see what's wrong with accountability. Everybody has it in their workspace. I know my nurses do. I know educators have it. So I do think people have to be accountable. All this bill did was take away the immunity of officers who were intentionally violating somebody else's constitutional rights. I support the police. I oppose police brutality. But this bill also brought more money into training for officers, the dash cams. ways to support our police and make them safe, make the community safe that they're serving. And by the way, in Meriden, the Democrats were the one that put forth the funds in the local budget for public safety and for law enforcement, and certain Republicans voted against that budget.
Well, we all know that budget was bullshit. So, I mean, that's why they voted against it. So, but again, you don't need to pass a state law in order to give money for training to police officers. I think you would want to do that all the time. I think a better trained force does a better job on the streets. I would think that's common sense. You don't need to pass a bill in order to do that. Each town should be doing that. But again, she wants to dodge the question. She wants to sit there and use words like accountability, like that actually means anything to her. So the next one is on Hispanic outreach.
Our next question is from Claudia for Joe Villano.
Yes, Mr. Bolano. As Latinos become a growing segment of the Connecticut population, how do you plan on reaching out to the Latino communities you serve?
Yeah, so we reach out to the Hispanic community all the time because the Hispanics are going to be the ones that decide this election when it gets down to it. And thank you for Hispanics for finally waking up and actually start coming to the Republican side, because you're starting to realize that the Democrats are just using you. So I thank all Hispanics for that. And we reach out again. We go to, we enjoyed the Hispanic awards from the Chamber of Commerce. We were there also. We reach out to Hispanic communities all the time, and we're in those communities. We have a great team here on the Villano for State Senate campaign that have a lot of Hispanics that come out and help us communicate with them and ask them what is most important to them. And when it comes down to it, safety and security is the #1 concern for everybody. And again, that's why the state police endorse me. That's why a lot of police endorse me, because we care about the safety and security of our community. And that's something that my liberal friends cannot say. They have proven it with actions. The Police Accountability Bill. Listen, it's just a slick word, accountability. Everybody likes accountability. I got an idea. Why don't we have accountability in our city government? Why don't we have accountability in our Board of Education when they're stealing, when you got employees stealing? There's a lot of places we want accountability, and some people throw it around as just, as a term of just here, I'm going to appease you. But then there's some of us who are out there every day fighting for real accountability that we never get because of the bureaucracies and the corruption within our city, state, and federal government. And if anyone doesn't believe there's corruption, you are blind and naive to what's going on. I see it every day. I'm in the trenches every day. I've been in the trenches for decades to help our police and to help our citizens live a better life.
Thank you. I think this goes back to the diversity, equity, and inclusion we were talking about, because I do think we have to celebrate our differences and learn from each other. And I think some of the best places we do that is in our schools and our places of worship. I know in our schools, they're starting to have things that are after school that celebrate people's ethnicity, religions, and I think we need to see a lot more of that. I loved the celebration that we had with the Puerto Rican Festival. That was fantastic. I would love to see more celebrations of the Latino community. I would also mention that I am in favor of hiring initiatives and making sure that who we hire, we have proportion that looks like our workforce, because that is the only way we get insights into other people's nationalities and learn from each other.
There it goes again. For every teacher that's out there, your job's on the line if you're the wrong color in the wrong school. So just make sure you're aware of that. And of course, she didn't say anything. She didn't say anything about what she's doing in the Hispanic community. She doesn't go into the Hispanic community. She sends people like Santiago to go into the Spanish community. She has nothing to offer them, which is why Hispanics record numbers are coming over to the Republican Party.
No, hold on. We have a question from Mike to Jan Hockadell from a reader.
This is a reader-submitted question regarding unions. This is to Ms. Hockadell. Given the same quality of work, should contractors with union workers be given preference over contractors with non-union workers even if the non-union contractor is less expensive, and why?
Thank you for that question. Yes, I work with the trade unions often. They're our best allies when we're in the technical high school system and putting workforce back out into the communities. They're called PLAs, and I do believe in project labor agreements. That's the way you ensure that you have a skilled workforce, that you are paying a living wage and giving people benefits. Other places that are not unionized, they will hire people, they'll pay them less, you might not see benefits, but when you have a project labor agreement, you are ensuring a quality product and with people that are knowledgeable and making sure that they are giving back into the communities.
I gotta say, when she mentioned PLAs, I got excited. I couldn't believe she said it. It shows me that she has absolutely no idea how Meriden taxpayers feel about PLAs. It showed me again how uninterested she is with the people of the city of Meriden. Because if she knew anything about the taxpayers of the city of Meriden, she would have never said that. And I was watching Brian Daniels in the audience. When she said that, I looked straight at him, and I believe he looked straight at me, and he knew exactly where I was going to go. I could not believe the gift I had just received. And I was not going to show my appreciation for it. Here's my answer.
Ask the city of Meriden residents about Maloney High School. Anyone? Anyone remember that? So when that project came out, it came out at a certain price, and then some of our council members said, no, we have to have a PLA. And so they turn around and they put it out to bid again, but it came back $18 million more expensive. They said, okay, well, we can't go over our cap of what we had, so we had to cut somewhere. So, okay, they went $18 million more in labor, and they cut $18 million in quality of service. So what happened is, and I said this even back in 2015, I said, we bought a Ferrari and we got a Pinto. Is that really what we want to do? I got an idea. I want the best people to do the job. Mohawk, which is one of the largest construction companies in the state, do terrific work, and they are non-union. And they do a terrific job. PLAs are nothing more than payoffs to their union buddies. That's all it is. At $18 million, it cost the city of Meriden. And we had to do so much work on Maloney after it was done to get the HVAC system, the water system, everything back up to code because it all started breaking due to useless,
So let me jump in here because this is probably the one piece that I got some pushback on. And some people thought that I was trashing unions. And that's not the purpose of what the question was. The question was, if they both do the same quality work, should unions get it over non-union? See, here's the problem with PLAs. When you have a PLA, it automatically cuts the competition. So everyone knows when there's less competition, there's higher prices. Now, again, we got this thing for $280 million, and we were all set. We had great quality materials we were going to use. But once you cut that half out when you did the PLA, these companies now know that they could charge a higher premium for the job because they know that the game is fixed. They know there's only 2 or 3 of you that are capable of doing the job, that are unionized. The rest of the companies are non-unionized. So that automatically increases it. It's not that they do a better job. It's not that they use different techniques. Nothing is different between the two other than one is union, one is not. Now, again, I'm not blaming the unions for it. I'm blaming the legislators for saying, no, we have to have the unions do it. If the unions could compete with the non-union people, so be it. Again, we're not here to pick winners and losers. We want the best company for the job. We want the cheapest person for the job that will do quality work. And PLAs, again, even Democrats were against getting a PLA during the Maloney High School build. Dominello and Iavana both voted against it. Iavana is an architect who turned around and said, you cannot do this. It's going to kill the cost of this project. And it's going to cost the city taxpayer millions of dollars. But Brian Daniels, no. His dad's another union president, which is why he was brought up on ethic complaints. Of course, our ethics board is a joke, but it does nothing. It stifles a competition, which increases pricing. I have nothing against unions. Hell, unions support me. I have nothing against unions. My father was a 40-year union guy with Connecticut Transit and with Connecticut Limo. My mother was a union in the factories over at Sargent's. My brother is a union steward. I was in the union with AT&T. I have nothing against unions. I have some issues with union leaderships. But to take half the competition away with a PLA does nothing but force higher prices. And that is what the taxpayers have to pay. Now, listen, she don't care about the taxpayers. She could care less. The more money her union makes, the more money they pay into her system, the more money she makes. That's all that matters to them. Now, that's not right or wrong. It's part of their business strategy. They're a union. They want more dues. I blame the government for allowing this kind of nonsense to happen. And again, it cost the city of Meriden $18 million in quality of service. And then after the project was done, it cost the city millions more to go and fix the HVAC system, the water delivery system, and then many of other things. So it was a gift. I think this is going to play very well with the taxpayers, because I think the taxpayers heard PLA, and I think most of them started to shake, because it has already been proven that the taxpayers of the city of Meriden absolutely despise PLAs because of the Maloney High School project.
Save on quality materials.
I think we have time for one more question. Mike, I want to go to the second to the last one that you will ask to Joe Villano. You know which one I'm talking about?
Yeah, the taxes told.
Yeah, it's a good
I honestly thought it was going to be something
With
better
the
than
suspension
this.
of the gas tax, Mr. Villano, and proposals to further extend that suspension, how do you expect to fund current transportation projects? And would you support the implementation of tolls in Connecticut?
Listen, they've been raiding the Special Transportation Fund forever. I mean, so whether or not it comes from gas or not, they're going to find their money somewhere. So someone who's in the fuel business, I own a small business. It's a fuel business. We deliver gas heating oil, and diesel. So I'm very familiar with the whole fuel business, with the fuel industry. Now, what most people don't realize is the gas tax was just a farce. No one's saving money out of that, just so you know. And on top of it, most people don't know there's another hidden tax on gas that you don't see, that I see that every day when I go down to a terminal at 8.8%. So, which I have to pay on gas every time, even still today. Now, if we really want to get serious about lowering costs and lowering the effect of inflation on people, we need to do two things. One, we need to extend that 25-cent gas tax at least temporarily to the end of next year. But what we also need to do is cut the diesel tax, which will affect everybody. But again, most people don't use diesel, so therefore you're not voters, so therefore they didn't care about you. But they do. It does matter if you're owning a trucking company, if you're buying food, if you're getting stuff delivered to your house. We all use diesel in our trucks, and it costs me about $2,000 a day to sit there and run for diesel. That's a huge expense that passed along to you guys. So there's so many things we can do. But again, they've been raiding the Special Transportation Fund for decades. And then they sit there and claim that we can't do anything. But on top of it, like Lou said previously, for every mile of road we have, it costs us 9 times the national average to maintain it. Why is that? It's because of all the bureaucracy and the red tape that goes along with it. So there's a lot of things we can do. No to tolls. And to Mr. Fasino, who obviously didn't realize that the lawsuit in Rhode Island, you cannot just tax cars or trucks and not cars. You have to tax everybody. And listen, don't let liberals sit there and get an inch on this, because they get cars or trucks. Cars are coming next. There's never a tax they don't like.
Thank you. I mean, who wants to pay tolls? I don't, definitely. But if you look at our surrounding states, Massachusetts, New York, they have tolls. And the reason is because they help for the deterioration of the roads and the conditions. Otherwise, we're paying for that, right? So I think Governor Lamont looked into tolls when that didn't work, and my opponent is correct. They said they only wanted to tax trucks, and they found out that in Rhode Island, that's illegal. And that's when they put into effect the highway use tax. And what the highway use tax is, it's only for 18-wheelers, by the way, because the 18-wheelers that are on our road, 60% of them are from out of state. And it's only a tax on those 18-wheelers. And by the way, if they go from one side of the state to the other, the average tax is going to be about $15. And these are your Walmarts, these are your Amazon trucks. They're the ones that are beating the roads up, so taxing them to make sure that we fix them.
So just to kind of feed off of that, one, she's incorrect in her numbers. She had her numbers mixed up. It's 60% of tractor trailers are interstate, are based off of here in Connecticut. All your fuel trucks that deliver fuel to the gas stations, all your trucking companies that, again, you want to talk about small businesses. These are minority owned. A lot of the new trucking, like in my garage, 95% of all the trucks and the truck drivers are small businesses, and they're Hispanic. And you're adding this major cost onto them on a daily basis. So if you take $15 per day and they go back and forth, that's what, $30, $45 a year. If you have multiple trucks, you're talking about a pretty penny. And this is small businesses in Connecticut that you're hurting. Now, you just heard her. She's all for tolls. She started with, well, nobody wants to pay tolls, but, that's what we're going to do. And again, if anyone believes that they're just going to tax trucks, you're smoking something. That is just a foot in the door. We cannot let them get that foot in the door. We have to stay, and again, the people of Connecticut have already said absolutely no to tolls. And we need to stand strong in that. You send her to Hartford, you're guaranteeing we're going to have tolls in this state. She is beyond dangerous. Beyond dangerous. She is going to cripple our state. Her way of thinking is the most dangerous kind of thinking you could possibly imagine. She's literally going to, again, let's recap. She's going to socialize childcare. She's going to socialize medicine. She's going to socialize nonprofits. She's going to add tolls. All this stuff she's going to do is going to cost us billions of dollars. Like I said, she's a typical tax and spend liberal. When she tells you this, believe her that this is what she wants to do. This is what she really thinks, and this is how most Democrats up in state legislature believe. It's imperative that we do not send her up there. It would be disastrous, not only for Meriden, but for the district and the state. This state will be worse off with someone like her up there. And let's finish off.
So we have reached the almost end, and we have final statements, 1 minute from each candidate, and I believe Ms. Huckadell goes first.
Well, thank you for the opportunity to talk tonight. Running for state senate has been an incredible experience. I've had the opportunity to talk to hundreds of people in the community, had conversations that I probably wouldn't have had otherwise, and I've gotten to learn a great deal more about the communities we live in. And look, whether you're a resident of Meriden, Middletown, Cheshire, or Middlefield, you deserve an effective state senator. And I believe that I am the best candidate for that because I have the experience, I have built the relationship, and I have the demeanor to help people in this district. I, again, support reproductive rights. I would like to expand access to affordable health care and prescription drugs. I want to continue to educate our young people and provide job training for those who need it. I see the work of being a state senator as similar to the job that I'm already doing. I will listen to people, I will advocate, and I will fight to get results. I hope to earn your vote. Thank you.
Like I said, over the last 2 years, heating costs have doubled. Property taxes, gas, rent, groceries, childcare, just about everything you could possibly think of has gone up in double digits. The only thing that has gone down is your 401ks and your retirement accounts. That's the only thing. Crime has skyrocketed due to liberal policies. Listen, we could sit here and debate all night long on whose policies are best, but they have 30 years of a track record, and look where it's gotten us. So my only question is, when will enough finally be enough for everybody? That's why I'm asking you to make a change. That's why I'm asking you to vote Villano for state senate. You're right. She's right. She has built all those relationships up there. We know how Hartford works. We know how crazy it is up there. We know the backroom deals that happen. She's part of it. She's part of the problem. She's part of it. Now, you can sit there and say that my straightforward demeanor doesn't really sit well with you, but you know what? At least I'm honest with you. At least I'm truthful with you. And that's what transparency and leadership is all about.
Thank you.
And that's basically it. Listen, she is part of the problem. She touts that. I have all these relationships up there. I know how this system works. Yeah. Because you know how the corruption works. You know how to get these backroom deals. You know how to pad each other's pockets. Yeah, you are the problem. You are exactly the people we don't want up there. Your only interest is the special interest that you deal with on a daily basis. And you can't have it both ways. You can't sit there and say, I'm going to go advocate for state employees, but yet I'm also going to represent this state by representing the people in the 13th district. It just doesn't match up. It just doesn't match up. It doesn't pass the smell test. And again, they might not like my demeanor. They might think that I come off a little harsh, but you know what? Again, like I said, at least I'm honest and truthful with you. She's blowing smoke up your ass. When really, she wasn't even doing that. She was basically telling you what she was doing. She's going to tax you to death. And when she's done taxing you, she's going to add tolls. And the tolls are going to tax you even more. Or we're going to hide some more taxes. And we're going to call them fees. And she's right. She wouldn't have had any of these conversations with the people because she's not in there for the people. She don't care. She hasn't done anything for this city. She hasn't done anything for this district. All she's ever done in her personal and her professional life is rob money from the taxpayers. That's all she does. That's her job, to squeeze as much taxpayer money out of you as possible, as humanly possible. And she would never have had these discussions because she has no desire to go into these communities and ask, what do you need? She doesn't care. She never has. But now she does because she's running for office? It's very sad. And again, I hope everybody has the opportunity to watch this debate because it is very telling. It is, like I said in my opening statement, you heard two very drastically different scenarios of what's going on in our communities. Mine was the honest and truthful one. Hers was in a land of make-believe that everything's going to be okay. And if we just take everybody's money and let the government decide what to do with it, we'll all be better off shape. You heard the ultimate big government versus limited government debate last night. And I hope people all sit there and really soak that in and really listen to what she had to say. Because I think you would come to the same conclusion that I did. That it's extremely dangerous. And we can't afford to send that type of person up to Hartford. Okay, so we're way over. We're at 8:30 already. I appreciate you guys all staying on. On Sunday, we'll do the house race. I haven't finished editing out all the nonsense to make sure that we do it. So we'll do that. We'll do that on Sunday. We'll talk about some other things going on. If you want to help, I gotta say, what this debate last night did do was drastically increase our volunteers. And I thank everyone who wants to volunteer. But if you do want to volunteer, please, please, please message myself. And we are doing some door knocking and lit drops all weekend long. So we would love for you guys to join us on that. If you have a couple hours to spare on either Saturday or Sunday, please hit me up on message. And we are going to go knock some doors, and we're going to do some lip drops. So if you want to help out the campaign, by all means, please, please, please message me, email us, any which way to Sunday. However you want to get a hold of us, please do so. But until then, guys, I thank you guys for watching. I apologize for the 8-minute delay at the start of the show. Technical issues, but we worked through them. We're here. We got through what we need to get through. But until Sunday, guys, I love you all. Again, this is our movement. This is our opportunity to bring our changes up to Hartford. We need to work together to make that happen. Again, contacting those in your circle of influence and making sure they watch this debate. Make sure you share this debate everywhere. Everyone here should be sharing this debate to make sure people see it. But until then, until Sunday, again, I love you. God bless you. And of course, God bless this great country. I will see you all next week.